everybody, and welcome back to the 7th episode of Tenacious V's podcast. We can't believe we've been going this long, and we're so excited to have the support that we do. And just thank you so much, everyone. But each week, my friends Julia and Kayla discuss with me, Nona, a woman from the past. It's historical figures, mythological figures, goddesses. But this week we're going to be discussing Catherine the Great. And she was a Russian empress, and she did so much for her country. She grew it more than almost any other emperor. And she did that by expanding the church, but making it a government position, and also by inoculating her people. And she was a war general, and she just did so much beyond what I can even fathom. It's crazy how much information there is about her, but how little most of us knew about her before this. We thought she was really cool. Her story's kind of crazy and it's kind of sad, but it's a good one, so we hope you enjoy as much as we did.
Привет, друг мой. Welcome back to Tenacious V's podcast.
Wow!
Today we're going to be talking about Catherine the Great, which is actually Catherine the Second. So Kayla, what do you know about our friend Catherine the Great?
She's Russian.
She is.
Woo! I know she's Russian. I know a little bit about her, but I always confuse her with I can never remember, Joan of Arc. I confuse the two of them. I know that's weird. Hear me out. I know that's weird. But every time I hear Catherine the Great, which isn't often, mind you, but the few times I've heard it, I immediately think of Joan of Arc, but because she was a war general or whatever.
Okay. Yeah,
so I know.
I'm surprised. Yes.
So I mixed them up, but I know a little bit about her. I know she was Russian. Roughly, I can remember, I think, what, era she was from, but that's pretty much what I got.
So she's actually not Russian.
Oh.
To start her life off.
Well.
She was born in 1729 as Sophie of the Anhalt-Zerbst in Stettin, Prussia, which is now, Poland.
Right, okay.
She belonged to the ruling German family of Anhalt. So, Germany, Prussia, they kind of had a little bit of a treaty. Their families all kind of merged together.
Mm-hmm.
And her family, her dad's side was German, but she was living in Prussia. And kind of ruling over it, anyways. So she grew up as a tomboy with the nickname Fike. Her childhood was pretty uneventful. Her mom was kind of a total bitch and bossed her around all the time. She often spent a lot of her time alone. Wouldn't hang out with the other, well, there really wasn't very many kids, but
just total apathetic teenager. My mom's a bitch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she honestly just kind of read a lot.
Yeah.
She just, really studied. She was actually pretty poor considering she was a princess. Her rise to power actually originated from her mother's connections with the royal families and everybody at this time was kind of marrying everybody.
Well, yeah.
To get their houses up and on there.
Mm-hmm.
Her mom from day one was all about getting her family ahead because she was from a really fancy, house and then got hooked up with this German dude and he was fifth in line of his brothers to ever rule anything.
She was we'll work on that.
Yeah, so.
What I can get for now.
Well, and she always blamed Sophie for being a girl. She wanted a boy because she wanted to,
yeah,
spread her name out there and get her name out there. So, she was never really super stoked about Sophie. But she realized, when Sophie was about 13 or so, this is the way that I'm going to get my ends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so her mom actually wanted to set her up with Peter Holstein, who was her second cousin, and he was going to be the Russian Tsar. And it was a diplomatic move to bring Russia and Prussia, closer together, It's what do you call that? A peace treaty type deal?
Right. Sell one of your children to her,
Yeah,
her royal relative, it's just one of those.
thing.
One of those things.
Yeah, it was like through her husband, like knew the
Mm-hmm.
queen, and they all they knew each other.
So that's
Distant relatives, yeah.
Yeah.
But she did not like him. She was not a fan. The first time they met, she just like straight up hated him.
I mean, you don't fall in love with everyone. That's fair that she didn't like him.
Yeah, I mean, and he was really, really young, and he was already drinking pretty heavily, and she hated it. She was not about it.
Mm-hmm.
But 10 years old.
He's 10?
Yeah.
Oh my god. That's a child. That's so young. How old is she? 13?
She's about that age. She's like
Oh
10
my-
to 13.
So
the
she's
first
like
time she
already
meets
like
him.
a teenager, like doing her puberty thing. And
I don't know, I
he's
think she was a little younger when she met him. She must have
Okay.
been like 11 and he was like 10. They were like the same age.
Okay, because I was like, I don't know, that's already bad, but that's even worse. Oh no. Oh my god, I can't believe he was only 10 and he has a drinking problem. What the fuck?
Well, yeah, but he also still played
Oh.
with toy soldiers, which was also an issue for her, because she was like, "You're such a child still. This is ridiculous. Like, I don't want to have anything to do with you."
Like, I'm uncomfortable. I can't imagine how she felt. I'm uncomfortable just hearing the circumstance.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
And he just paid no attention to her, despite the protest to her mother. And it was terrible, you know? It wasn't going well.
You probably didn't even like girls yet.
Yeah. But she just stuck with it because she knew she had a duty to her country. And so what does she do? She owns it. She learns fluent Russian. She learns their whole religion. She starts adapting to their style and meets with Peter's adoptive mom, the Empress Elizabeth, all the time and becomes friends with her.
So Empress Elizabeth was the current ruler of Russia at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And by adopted mom, so Peter was actually from Denmark.
Okay.
Right? From like a little itty bitty little place in Denmark that was
Mhm.
also ruled by Russia. They're all distant cousins somehow or another. And Peter's like parents end up dying, or they're not fit to rule, or there's something. And Empress Elizabeth adopts him.
Okay.
And rather than her own children, she names Peter as the new heir to
Oh, jeez.
the throne, even though he didn't come out of her
That must
vagina.
have really pissed her, like, birth kids off.
Yeah. So essentially, Empress Elizabeth, sends a letter out to Sophie's mother, Joanna,
Mm-hmm.
who's kind of like trying to set everything up right with all these cousins and stuff. Empress Elizabeth is like, "Yo, get your ass out here! I got a proposition for you," and like Sophie's already met him.
Yeah.
They've already met each other as kids because they were like distant cousins, but this time, Elizabeth is like, "Let's get this going." So, like, they're packing, they're getting ready to go up to Russia. Elizabeth gives them 10,000 rubles to like go towards Sophia to like look really nice and like to pay for their travel expenses and this and that. So what does Joanna, mom, do? She like buys this like fancy ass dress and she spends it all on diamonds for herself. Doesn't get Sophie
I
anything.
hate her.
Dude, she's the worst.
Ugh.
But right before they're about to embark, she gets hit up from King Frederick the Great
Mm-hmm.
of Prussia, and King Frederick's like, "Yo, come check me out here in Berlin before you go off to go see the Russians."
He said it just like that in his letter.
Pretty much.
Yo, come check me out.
So they're like, "All right, dude, it's like kind of on the way and stuff." So they go down, then go back up. Anywho, meet up with Frederick, and Frederick, first night, mom shows up and she's all in like her finery that she just bought, and she thought that he wanted to talk to her.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Dude, where's Sophie?" And she's like, "Oh, she's sick, dude. Like, I thought you were here to chill with me, right?"
Oh,
But really, she didn't even like bring her.
Oh no.
Day 2, where's Sophie? Day 3, he's fucking pissed. He's like, "You better go get her and bring her back here, like, pronto."
Last chance, bitch.
Yeah, so Joanna goes and gets Sophie, brings her back. She's like fucking super nervous. And King Frederick is like, "Sit next to me at the dinner table," and they talk all night. They talk about like literature and about music and about all sorts of like really like refined things. And he's like, "This chick might have it." So before they go off to Russia, he sends a letter to Empress Elizabeth and was like, yo, this girl has my blessing. She's the shit. We want her to rule in the future, you know,
Yeah.
and like make all these alliances like happen and stuff. But in the end, Sophie's mom, Joanna, almost fucks the whole thing up. Because she was like,
surprise, surprise.
Yeah. You know, right when Sophie gets out to Russia and she's like hanging out with Empress Elizabeth and they're getting really tight and she's like starting to get closer with Peter, her mom comes to find out that she's like reporting back to King Frederick about all the shit that's going on and talking shit about both of them and is like talking shit about the Empress Elizabeth and
Oh, jeez.
she gets like overheard and so Empress
Oh,
Elizabeth's
no.
livid, right? And she's like, first of all, you're starting a war between my ally.
Yeah.
You know, like giving him information he's not asking for. And she's thinking she's doing her duty or something.
Right.
And then Elizabeth likes Sophie so much that she's like, I don't want to like ruin this for you. Peter likes you. You guys are getting along fine, I guess. I really like you. So I'm just gonna kind of banish your mom from the court. She's not allowed to sit with us at like dinner and stuff.
Good.
Like, you know.
Finally.
But
Get
I'm,
rid of
like,
her.
You can't sit with us.
She can't.
But if like some sort of treason like that happened to like any other culture, you would have just been banished.
Yeah.
You would have been done.
Or killed.
Yeah, exactly. So anyways, so the Empress allows her to stay. The day before she gets married to Peter, she adopts the Russian Orthodox Church instead of the Lutheran Church that she was born on.
Mm-hmm.
And she like goes like full in. And the day before she gets married, she adopts the name Ekaterina, which is Catherine
Right.
in English, when she was 16 years old.
Wonder
And then
why.
gets married to Peter the very next day, and I wish I could say it gets happier.
Yeah, I'm already not like so warm and fuzzy on this one.
Yeah, their marriage, it sucked.
It was
It
the
was
worst.
not great. He was still childlike, and Elizabeth was honored to get an heir. He never wanted to do it, and she was not attracted to him. Like, it was just
Well-
things in the bedroom were not heating up.
Ooh, it makes me feel so gross.
He also
Yuck.
had bad skin, and he was like pale and sickly looking, and he was just kind of gross.
Well, he had smallpox, and he like overcame it, so he had like this nasty like.
Yeah. Well, here we go. Vaccinated and smallpox.
Look at
Yeah.
Ugly and nasty. Oh, yuck. Okay, tell me more.
Yeah, but it's like pretty well known that they're both sleeping with other people, and it's very unsure if Catherine's children were Peter's.
So she has 2 miscarriages.
Okay. I mean,
Yeah.
can you be that shocked though? Like if it's in an arranged marriage that neither party really fucking wanted to be a part of?
He was more interested in soldiers.
Yeah, he just wants to play fucking toys, and they're like trying to make them make babies, and it's just, oh, it's awful.
Yeah.
Oh God.
After the death of their second child, who died at 4 months old, he like freaked
Oh,
out,
that's sad.
and he called her a whore, and just he was really mean, and she angrily just dismissed him, and he retorts, "Go to the devil."
Jeez.
And so she spent a lot of time alone just to try to get away from him. And eventually she does have a son who like survives, and does not die.
Right. Oh. sad.
Again, speculative whether it was Peter's son or not.
Right. Yeah.
But essentially, Queen Elizabeth dies, and she already announces Peter as her heir. They moved to Winter Palace in St. Petersburg. Catherine had been conspiring against Peter like this whole time. Like she's like, this dude is not fit to rule. He's like a kid. He would straight up take like his guards and his soldiers, and he would dress them up as toy soldiers and have them march around.
That's
He would like stay up
what
at
an entitled piece of shit.
like his
Like,
mom would be
that's-
like, no,
I'm
seriously.
sorry. Like, are you? I just picture like the snobby fucking. Oh, my father will hear about this. Like, just some little
Draco
fucking
Malfoy.
asshole kid.
He would keep her up at
Ugh.
night because he wanted to have his maid pretend to play with the toy soldiers while he laid in bed watching it, like, on the bed sheets.
What the fuck, dude?
Dude.
Honestly, like, I get he's a kid, but, like, he's got
Oh, no, at
issues.
this time he's, like, 16 to 20.
Yeah, like, he's got some stuff going on upstairs.
Yeah, he's a little cuckoo. So Catherine's been conspiring against him this whole time, right? And he ultimately, once he comes into power, makes, like, all these, like, stupid military mistakes. Like, he starts fighting with...
What, he didn't have enough practice playing with his fucking soldiers to know what he was
Right?
doing?
Seems
No.
ridiculous.
No,
Oh
he
my
didn't. So he starts fighting with, like, Prussia and Denmark, who are, like, their allies. Like, he just, like, charges on Denmark, you know, which was, like, not something that Russia was interested in at all at the time.
Yeah. He
Like,
just said, "What, we're doing it."
yeah, yeah. And essentially, you know, her husband goes on vacation to Oranienbaum and arrest one of her co-conspirators. So, like, basically these two guys were, like, outside the castle, and, like, one guy looks at the other, and he's like, oh, hey, so, is this revolt thing really happening? Well, the guy he told that to didn't know about it.
Oh,
Ratted
no.
on him to Peter. Peter arrests him, right? And before it, like, you know, like, it gets out to Catherine, like,
Yeah.
he alerts her,
Yeah.
yo, if we're gonna do this, you gotta do this now, because your husband
we
knows.
done fucked up. You gotta
Yeah,
send it.
because he's gonna come lop your head off.
Oh, man.
So she literally has one day, June 27th, 1762,
Mhm.
to overthrow her husband and overthrow
One
everything.
Day.
One day.
What a
Like,
make
24
or break
hours.
it situation.
Dun dun.
Dum dum.
God, I hate that show.
I love that show.
So-
Four, really?
Yeah.
Oh, my parents.
So
used to
she
watch
literally
it.
gets, like, awoken at, like, 5 in the morning.
Mhm.
And she gets up in the middle of the night and just fucking leaves. She didn't even, like, get ready, which was, like, you know, like, the big deal for women back then to get
Oh,
ready.
yeah.
Like, you didn't leave the house
No.
without...
She just
all your
throws that
garb.
shit back in like a goat
Mhm.
sphincter elastic band and
Yeah, she was out.
goes.
But she essentially goes to the barracks of each and every guard stationed in St. Petersburg, one by one, and they all swear fealty to her. She
Mhm.
goes in and says, like, I'm coming in, I'm gonna be empress, you guys know this guy's a fucking idiot, and they're like,
Mhm.
yes,
They're like, okay.
we're behind you.
Yeah.
So Peter is getting told all this is going down, like, you know, but he's, like, super annoyed because he's like, oh, my wife's conspiring against me. They're like, dude, she's overthrowing your throne. He's like, yeah, okay.
We'll see.
Well, I'll deal
see.
with her in a few days, like,
Right.
you know, and just keeps dismissing all the couriers, like, over and over and over again.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, she's getting everybody behind her.
And she goes to the Cathedral of Our Lady Kazan with an army and is announced as the Empress.
So she like basically was like, I'm gonna just take the title and then I'll deal with you later.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
well, you know, do with it what you will. I'm the fucking empress. Get on board or get out, Peter.
Yeah, so she and a whole mob show up at Winter Palace, or, you know, like Winterfell.
Yeah, I'm like that sounds so
Nice, Nona.
made up. It sounds.
I
so
got one
made
in.
up.
You did it.
In St. Petersburg, Russia, and says out of her love for Russia and the Orthodox faith that she was moved to act the way that she did. And she needed to get the outsiders out of Russia, which was ironic because, like, she was not Russian. You
She
know?
was an immigrant.
Yeah. But Peter eventually comes to St. Petersburg to meet with Catherine, and she shows Peter's officers the crowd screaming her name. Peter neglected to mention to his guards that they may actually fight, and they showed up with their wooden practice rifles.
They were toy soldiers.
Yeah,
I'm
dude, they were
not
like too busy
kidding you.
LARPing in the kingdom grounds.
Well, they didn't understand the severity of it.
Yeah, they were like,
You know, they
whatever,
just thought
it's a
that they were
joke.
gonna come back and, like, he was just gonna scold his wife.
Yeah.
And, like,
Yeah, he didn't think that she had actually, like, formally taken over and,
Oh
like,
man,
taken and abdicated
fucking
the
power
crown.
move, dude. Can you imagine the look on his face?
Yeah, dude, he actually gets, like, chased out of everywhere.
Oh, how
And he
embarrassing.
goes back to Peter Hoff and writes Catherine apologizing and offering to share the throne with her.
Yeah,
and at this
okay.
point, she's just like,
Yeah, alright.
okay, like, share, bitch, really? Like,
What-
you have
what have
toy
we done?
soldiers, I have a mob.
Yeah. yeah, dude. Needless to say, she gets that letter and she's, like, not impressed.
Right.
It's funny because then, like, a few hours later, she's, like, mulling over, like, what she's gonna say back to
Yeah.
him. Then a few hours later, she receives another letter stating that Peter will abdicate if she allows him to go back to Holstein, which is like his home place.
Right.
You know, which is not like his family before he was adopted. And she's like, sure, dude, you can go back to Holstein. You know, just don't deal with me.
Right.
And he writes her an abject abdication letter renouncing his claim and his title.
Wow.
Yeah, just
Smart
like
move.
He gave it up.
Yeah, smart move. I mean,
you know, he knew that he was not going to be able to win
he
it
saw
back.
how it was gonna go
Mhm.
if he didn't do that.
Well, a few weeks later, he actually ends up dead in a drunken brawl.
Oh,
Which-
someone
which-
brought
which is
their real
probably
sword
like
to
a
a wooden sword fight.
It was like everyone thought it was like a cleverly disguised assassination.
Okay.
Even the people who like got caught like beating him up
Right.
were pardoned by Queen Catherine.
Well, I mean, yeah. Even if it wasn't necessarily like a planned assassination, it still makes sense that she was like,
Yeah.
he was a drunk asshole at, 16 years old. So, jeez Louise.
Yeah, I mean, when she got into office, she immediately reversed all the shit that Peter did.
Good.
Russian troops were on the verge of attacking Denmark, and she had them turn around. Like,
Literally
turn around,
just-
come on back.
Honestly, this legit is like a combination of Game of Thrones and Nefertiti and her husband. Like,
Yeah.
hey, we're taking everything you know and switching it around.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
there's just like lots of battles, and the
Mhm.
Joffrey is just
This
Peter.
seems in this seems in more of like a positive light for the people though. Like with Nefertiti and Akhenaten, like they were very much just like disrupting the natural order of things, and she was kind of like, "Hey, this guy came and fucked everything up.
Let's go back.
Let's go back. Let's totally revert back to where we were."
Well,
Yeah.
and she pulls all troops out.
Yeah,
Even the wars that were going on when Elizabeth was
she
still
was just
reigning.
like, "Let's just start fresh."
She actually made Russia a state of neutrality and would fight in no side for the remaining of the 7-Year War.
That's shocking.
Yeah. So, like, the armies and all the people, they were, like, super stoked.
Mhm.
However, the church was not stoked.
When is the church ever fucking
It's like, I could say some things, but I won't.
But yeah, she found out Russia was actually like real poor and like, po.
Yeah.
So pulling out the troops would help with the war expense, but they just really still had no money to potentially come in from like winning the war.
Mhm.
So about a tenth of Russia's wealth was locked away in churches, and Catherine convinced the church to give up the money since they didn't contribute to pay for society, education, etc. Like, we don't
So
pay
just
taxes.
nothing has
so-
changed, is what you're telling me.
Yeah,
Churches
but-
have been the same forever.
She actually changed it, and she got the churches to pay for everything.
That's
and,
awesome.
Well, not everything, but like they gave up their money.
Yeah, they pay their dues.
Yeah. So the churches became state property. Church employees were now needing to pay taxes
Hell yeah.
and became government employees.
Hell yeah.
And this like really shows how powerful she was as a leader and like how much sway she had within her country.
Mhm.
She writes the Nakaz, which was a set of guidelines to write the rules of the land. So kind of like a laying down, like
It's like rules for the rules.
a constitution, kind
The
of, right?
rules.
Yeah, they're just guidelines to make laws. Like,
Yeah,
we'll make
so-
sure that our laws are fair and just and whatever.
Right. Like
you know.
your laws need to respect this set of like
So like a constitution.
all governing
yeah.
laws.
Yeah, like
They're more like guidelines.
Guidelines. I said that the whole time. What are you doing?
Parlay.
But yeah, so she decides to bring representatives of her people and ask them what problems there were and what laws needed to be made and what needed to be fixed. And she just really wanted to get on the basic level of the average everyday person in Russia. And she asked people of all classes, all religions, everyone in the country to be involved. And the people who showed up were unprepared and thought it was a trick. Russia hadn't had a reform in what seemed like forever. And the only thing they agreed on was what honorific to grant Catherine. They decided on Catherine the Great. It was almost Catherine the all-wise mother of the fatherland.
That's a lot longer than Catherine
was
the Great.
pissed.
Well, she was pissed because she brought them all together and wanted to have like this huge innovation. You know, like let's make the country great. What do you guys want?
Right.
And all of them were like, "Oh, did you bring a pen? I didn't bring a pen." Oh, well.
Someone's like,
free snacks.
What should we call Catherine? Catherine's like pretty cool. We should give her an honorific.
yeah,
How about the great?
yeah. That
They're
makes
like,
sense.
I guess there's a pothole on that one street, right?
Well,
you like fix that.
Once
yeah.
they finally got down to it, it was all about like for people who were kind of like super high class, it was like money and like merchants and
Right.
like the people who were like landowners, they wanted to work as merchants. And the merchants wanted to take over some of their land.
Okay.
And like the lower people were like, Olaf is letting his horse shit all over my yard.
Yeah, that's just pissing me off. Like-
So she didn't get anything out of it. It was super frustrating.
Right.
But you got to think this is also only 1/9 of the population that she allowed to come to these meetings.
Mm-hmm.
8/9 were slaves,
Oh shit.
were serfs. Yeah.
Whoa.
So she never got the serfs' perspective on it. I got to put a little asterisk
Yeah,
there.
I'm sure it would have been a very different discussion if 8/9 of the population were there to discuss it.
Yes. Can we just like get some food
Can we just
every now
like
and
not be
again?
slaves? It's like
Can we like have a normal life?
you're one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael Cera and Jack Black are slaves. So like, it's like, can I get some of that? Can I get something to eat? Or no, Jack Black walks up and he's like, hey, so when you off? And he's just like, never.
Never.
I'm a slave. Jack Black like just can't grasp it. The shit cracks me up. Slavery is not funny,
It's
but
not,
that
guys.
movie is pretty
But
funny.
it's Jack Black, so it's hilarious.
So Catherine was an autocrat and wanted to rule with knowledge and understanding, but they were in short supply in these meetings. She tried to have numerous meetings about how to change Russia. Ultimately, the whole thing gets called off due to like foreign affairs. It's like taking so long that she's like, oh, I got other things to
Yeah,
deal
I
with
can't
here.
do this anymore.
She had someone in Poland who was just kind of like her little puppet that was, more often than not having him do things that are not in the best interest of the Poles.
Mm-hmm.
So she was kind of like, you do my bidding and you kind of control, make sure that shit doesn't go down out here,
Yeah.
So the people of Poland finally rebelled and the Russian army went to put them down. The Ottomans get involved because they were allies with France and France wanted Poland. And, it was just kind of like, they all just went in at the same time because shit was going
Just
down.
this whole thing.
Yeah. So the Russians ended up defeating the Ottoman over and over and over again, multiple battles.
Right.
Like, it's kind of a big deal because the Russians were, like, kind of like peasants with pitchforks, and she, like,
At
made
that
them
point,
become true, like, soldiers.
defeating the Ottomans.
Mm-hmm. So then they, broached the treating of, I really apologize, guys, it's Russian. Kucha Kanarska, which gave Russia some of Poland and gave the Ottoman Empire, and gave, so basically what they did is they took over part of Poland, but then the Russians, like, to get to the Ottoman Empire, which is down by the Black Sea, they traveled all the way around Europe and came at them from behind.
Whoa.
And took it over.
That's
Yeah.
dedication.
Otherwise, they'd have to, like, they couldn't, they had to take out their navy, essentially.
Right. Wow.
So, the Treaty of Kuchuk-Kanarja, wow, dude, I'm getting this,
You're nailing it, dude. Nailing
allowed
it.
for them to take part of Poland and also take ports on the Black Sea, and also provided revenue. So this is the first time they brought in revenue for, like, a few years after she's, like, taken over.
And so now that the war with the Ottomans is over, she had to turn her eyes on a revolt happening in Russia. The Cossacks and serfs were pissed about raised taxes and just like their general really shitty way of life.
Mm-hmm.
So they started a massive protest and revolt, and it was going down, man. A Pugachev man was bringing
The guy's name is Pugachev.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry. The man named Pugachev was bringing the revolt to a head. He was in charge of it. And he claimed that he was Peter, that he didn't actually die, and his wife conspired against him because he was going to pass a decree to free all serfs.
Like, did anyone buy that, though? Was that...
Yeah, dude.
Wow.
Well, just listen.
Okay, I'm can't wait.
You'll see why.
Okay.
Yeah, so he also just he offered freedom, religion, no taxes, and Catherine just sent an overwhelming force to snuff it out.
So, like, he came in saying, like, hey, I'm Peter, and, like, before Catherine tried to, take over the throne, I was going to free all the serfs, which is, again,
Right.
9/10 of the or 8/9 of the population.
Yeah.
And no taxes, and freedom of religion. You don't have to, you're not going to be forced on the Orthodox religion.
And she's like, yeah, okay, I've been married to you since you were 10. Like, I know that's not you. I gotta get to the bottom of this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, she
Yeah,
just doesn't
right.
really even care.
Right.
So she sends all these people in, a whole bunch of like armies of people, and she just takes them out. Like they're just not even close to the force,
Well, they're also serfs.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, they're untrained, they're slaves.
Weary.
Like they just,
Tired.
yeah, they have nothing to really fight back with. So that kind of just took care of that. But then the real enemy comes into her land, smallpox.
There it is.
And it's just bad. She and her son did not get it, but she was just heartbroken because all of her people were dying so quickly. So she enlists the help of a doctor from Britain to inoculate her and her son. And she hoped by her example others would inoculate themselves to it. And it worked. She had stations set up all over Russia and is hailed as one of the true wonders of modern medicine.
This is where I've heard of her most. Now that you got here, this is where I've heard her name multiple times now.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So she actually had like 2 million of her people inoculated against smallpox.
Wow.
Isn't that pretty incredible?
That's super incredible.
Do you guys want to hear how it was done?
Yeah.
It's really disgusting.
Uh-huh.
It was really disgusting.
I can't wait.
So they would cut you with a knife, and then they would dip the knife into someone's pussy smallpox wound, and then dip it into your cut.
Fuck no.
Yeah.
Fucking horrible.
Wow.
So it's like you might get a few little blisters from the smallpox, but you wouldn't get full blown.
Right.
You wouldn't catch it.
And then you can never catch it
Mhm.
after that.
Oh, so
Yep.
gross.
Oh, that's so gross. I much prefer the vaccines we have now. Oh, gross.
By the end of her reign, though, over 2 million Russians had been inoculated.
Oh yeah,
against
she saved
smallpox.
so many lives.
Yeah, can we talk about 2
So many
million?
That's
That's
insane.
insane at
That's
that time.
crazy. I
So
mean,
crazy.
especially for Russia, I know there's little colonies and stuff, but everyone's so spread out in Russia
Yeah.
at that time, and so for her to breach that much was amazing. That's so good, and for her to see the importance of that.
Yeah, it was actually an idea thought up by a British doctor
Mm-hmm.
that she had reached out to and had him come out and do this.
Yeah.
Because he's like, it seems like it's working out here, because she just constantly was learning. She was pulling shit from every
Right.
single region that
Yeah.
she could,
Marie Antoinette was also inoculated against smallpox and
Yeah.
had her children
So was
vaccinated.
Ben Franklin's son died of, I believe it was smallpox or measles. It was one of the two. Yeah, it was one of those two, but that was one of his recorded quotes is I made the choice not to fucking inoculate my son. Obviously, quote, not quote for quote, but it was I made the choice not to do this for my kid because I was so worried about him dying from that I just wish I would have fucking risked it in the first place. And if any of you guys don't inoculate your kids, I hope you don't have to fucking experience what I have.
Right.
It was a huge, huge first step in vaccines and preventing those diseases.
At least from, maybe not from everybody, but from as many people as they could.
Well, and it was just such an experimental phase, was the amount of control you had over who got inoculated and who just fully contracted it was not there yet,
Yeah.
It's obviously very different now, but wow, that's so cool. She did a lot of good things.
Well, yeah, I mean, and not only did she kill it ruling Russia, I mean, she also held a personal life too. Even when she was with Peter, she was with numerous different suitors. She was always kind of searching for love, because she never had it with her first husband. She was,
or with her mom,
with her mom, yeah.
Never really had that. She was always just kind of her own person.
So the first guy she fell in love with was Grigory Orlov, They dated for like 13 years, but never got married.
Mhm.
So she was faithful to him. He was like brave, bold, but he was also like really rude and proud and unintelligent. Like whenever she would try to like share like knowledge with him, he's like, "Yeah, who can I pick a fight with?"
Right.
He was also not faithful to her and like was always looking for like a fight or a battle. But he kept her like constantly excited and like she didn't know what he was gonna do and she was really into the fact that he was kind of a bad boy when
He was like the fun guy.
when she's always been like cooped up in her house and reading books her whole life.
Right.
She said that she would have stayed with him for all eternity had he chosen her.
Oh,
Because
okay,
she chose him, but he was like not about it.
It's like, nah, babe, I can't settle down.
So what does she do? She's like, yeah, this ain't working out, and then she moves on, and the very next guy that she dates is considered the most boring man in Russia.
What the fuck? Dude, can
good
you imagine
jump,
that
girl.
being your legacy? Like, being considered the most boring man in Russia? Do you know how big Russia is? And you're the most boring man out of the entire country.
Well, she wanted to play it safe and kind of find somebody who was more her
I
style.
think she did that.
And it ultimately doesn't work out with him either, right? So she went after this guy named Grigory Potemkin, who had actually adorned her like with Russian soldier garb, like back when she was taking over the throne.
Yeah.
Like she was like running in the middle of the night, never got ready, right? And they're like, you know what? You need people to respect you. You need to fucking dress like a Russian soldier.
Right.
So as she's like riding away, he stops her and gives her like a piece of his uniform to look legit,
That's so cinematic.
And but they'd also known each other for like a long time since then because she was like, "Hey, I remember you," And she was like, or sorry, he was her envoy to Sweden, like a holy representative, army paymaster, and like the guardian of exotic peoples.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Love
good
it.
one.
So back when she ran, or when she was like doing I always want to say Kazam, but it's Kazan.
Kazoo.
Back when she was writing those guidelines, he would take all the people that came in from like the different spaces of Russia, like the Buddhists and the Arabic people,
Right.
and he was in charge of them, and they were considered the exotic people.
Wow, so exotic.
He served in the Turkish War, as like a badass army commander. Like he was just like the shit. He was intelligent. He asked questions. He was curious. He was witty. He was good at impressions, which was like a big thing back then. It was
That's like
comedic gold.
The most boring man in Russia couldn't
No.
do.
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna say no. This is another guy.
Yeah, no, he never stood a chance.
So basically, he was the GOAT, greatest of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows if they actually got married, but she would always refer to him like as her husband.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, ultimately, like on paper, they were killing it together.
Right.
In the little short time that they dated.
In reality, though,
Uh-oh.
he was super jealous of her power, and he was scared that she was going to leave him. The strain he put on her just killed their chances at a relationship. Like, it was too much, because he was just afraid, who's not afraid of a powerful woman?
Yeah. Yeah.
He was like super needy, and he's like, "Who's that? Who are you talking
What? Right. Send me a picture. Well, and it like sounds like he's super charismatic too, and like tries to reach out and grow his own type of status. So.
But you're not going to be the empress.
Yeah, to never be able to compare to your, quote unquote wife is a big deal for that kind of person.
Yeah.
But that's a shame he couldn't fucking put that aside and just be like, you know what, I'm proud of you. You're pretty awesome. You're a pretty rad guy. Great.
Well, just
love you, bud.
Oh man.
But she moves on, and it just made him closer. They saw other people, but Potemkin and her still worked closely together for a better Russia. She would dismiss anyone who spoke ill of him, and he would do all her bidding.
Like, they was like best homies.
Like, they were still chilling. They were working together closely in the cabinet, being like Russian diplomats together and doing Like, I'm assuming a lot of weird Russian stuff.
That's
like,
good.
probably, like,
So much weird Russian stuff. Pipe
chainsaws and trees and...
But she sends Potemkin out on a mission to expand Russia's borders while all the other countries are like fighting against each other. So they go into like Georgia, which is south, and they take like over a little part of that. So that causes some fighting against the Ottoman Empire again. But Potemkin crushed them over and over again. But unfortunately, like while he was away, he ends up dying from disease.
Aww.
I couldn't find the exact disease. I tried looking.
Mm-hmm.
But he was like the perfect dude outside of like his jealousy issues he had.
Right.
He'd give to the poor, he would pray, he would constantly learn. He was a very curious individual, just like Catherine was. He helped Catherine like so much. Like without him, she would not be as great as she was.
Mm-hmm.
Before he died, he left one thing unresolved, and that was the matter of Poland, because they were trying to like take it over together.
Right.
Catherine aimed to take that shit over. She wanted it. That was her homeland, you know. So she makes a deal with her dude Frederick the Great in Prussia, and Frederick and Catherine decide that they would support each other's armies, but Frederick wanted more. He proposed that Prussia take a small chunk of Poland to unite all his land and create a very strategic setup. Austria expanded into the south of Poland, and Russia moved over, and eventually they all expand and just like did away with Poland for a minute. Like it was just bye bye, we're here now.
Yeah, it's like they literally all just.
Oh well.
So Catherine was dying, and she left no true heir.
Mm-hmm.
She did have the one son who is maybe Peter's, maybe not. And she was also noted as like maybe the very last great emperor, like debatably, of Russia ever, and this is like in the 1700s.
Yeah, that's huge.
And she was a woman. That's badass.
Yeah. She had her son, and she despised him. He kind of grew up and had like a lot of Peter's like mannerisms, so a lot of people think it was his child.
Right.
But she just wasn't about that.
Right,
She
right.
just
Well,
didn't like Peter, so she didn't want to remember him.
well, that, it's also she didn't really know him for the first 8 years of his life.
Yeah.
So Elizabeth, at the time she was like still alive, you know, before they came into power, Elizabeth whisks him away and has him like, you know, brought up by maids and servants and tutors, you know, up until he's about 8 years old when he's given back to Catherine. But like they were like super distant, and he'd been like raised on like military strategy and stuff, and was so more interested in his dad and what his dad was doing.
Toy soldiers.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that. Her son was like super jealous of like her mom and her dad. It was like he just wanted to be a part of everything, and they all kind of just kept chewing him out.
Mm-hmm.
And she, once Peter died and like moved away and stuff, she was like didn't really want to raise him either. She saw him as a threat to the throne.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, well,
Instead
because
of like a legacy to
because he
carry.
honestly had the rightful seat to the throne.
Right.
If you're gonna really argue it, and if he
Yeah.
were to get people backed up behind him, then she
Yeah,
can
but
get
like,
over
why
town
wouldn't you just like get him on your agenda and like raise him in that light, you know, and instead of being like, ooh, I ignored my son for 8 years and now he might have different ideas than me. Like,
you know.
No, it wasn't really that. That was actually really, really common in like from the 1500s all the way through the like almost 1900s, where like royalty and like high society people would have their kids taken away for like a few years and just raised by like nannies and tutors and brought up to be a fancy person and a lady or a gentleman or whatever, and
such a
they
special
just like
childhood.
would see their parents, but like not very often.
That's so sad.
Like fancy dinners and things.
Yeah, it was like for like events that they would see their parents.
Oh, have dinner with mommy and daddy. See you again next month. It's been quite nice.
Get
But
your fancy clothes on for mom and dad.
So sad.
so what she ends up doing is, you know, since she's like shoving him away from like all government meetings and all like anything that could influence him and like help him become a better person
Right.
outside of like academic stuff,
Mm-hmm.
she just like leaves him out of it and shoos him away, despite like his protest to want to be involved in it. So Catherine's like, shit, dude, I gotta get this guy off my back. You know, what do I do? So she sets him up with a wife. His first wife dies in childbirth, and the kid dies too.
Mm-hmm.
And then after, like, his wife dies, he finds letters, correspondences between his wife and his best friend.
Ooh.
And they'd been banging, so might not have even been his kid.
Ooh.
And he was, like, super devastated. So his mom, of course, what does she do? Find him another wife.
Yeah.
So he gets with his second wife, and then they go and travel all around Europe, and he learns all sorts of funny things. And meanwhile, Catherine's like, cool, dude, get out of my hair, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts kind of like being a badass. And everyone's kind of giving him the thumbs up all around Europe, like, I mean, he's not the best, but like, he can do it.
Right.
And is telling Catherine this, and she still is just dismissing him and doesn't want him to be a part of it at all. And so on November 17th, 1796, Catherine dies and leaves behind a Russia that was larger, stronger, and more developed. Her son does end up ruling for like a little bit, but he gets assassinated almost immediately.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Because nobody, I mean, she didn't raise him to be fit to be a ruler.
Yeah.
So she honestly like built up this whole legacy to not have anybody ready to take it over.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that just makes no sense to me.
She conquered education, health, maternal rights, and expanded Russia on every single border.
That's awesome.
She valued the arts and architecture and had lots of architecture built and art pieces, sculptures, statues. Her armor went from like shitty to like super badass. She grew the Orthodox Church within Russia and grew the idea of like enlightenment and betterment for all of society. She did so well that nobody could possibly ever fill her shoes, which is why she was known as the last great emperor of Russia.
That's crazy. I mean, she could have set herself up a little better, I think, ending that, but that's a pretty tenacious V, right there. It
Dude,
really
that's
is.
a bad bitch.
She pretty much spent her whole life just being a boss.
Well, and think about it, like that wasn't even her like motherland.
No.
She was born in
She
Prussia,
just was
which is
like,
there's Poland's in between it.
And then she like took over some of that land.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I guess I'll
crazy.
just take that too, and make it better. You know, from what it sounds like, I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna give you guys some new perspective, and I'm gonna grow the such and such, and I'm gonna make this just a better place for everybody. That's so cool.
And she was smart, she was redeeming, but she was also ruthless when she had to be.
Right.
So
Yeah.
she had kind of like that perfect balance of everything that makes a good leader.
Yeah. Way to go, Catherine.
I think
Pretty
we
great.
can learn a
And
lot from her.
she saved a lot of people from smallpox.
She did.
That's a big one.
She's dubbed with one of the biggest, miracles in health history.
It's amazing.
But fun fact, the reason I really want to talk about Princess Catherine is it's my middle name.
It is your middle name.
Mhm.
Aww. Usually Catherine the Great. Right.
Anyways, guys, thank you so much for listening in about Catherine the Great, a Russian queen. If you love me, you'll listen to it.
See you next time.
I don't know what to say.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. Have a great day. Love you so much. Okay, bye.
We appreciate you. Come back soon.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed that, check us out on all the social medias. We're Tenacious V's podcast on Spotify, YouTube, Podbean, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. All the music is done by our friend Staple Milk, and everything else is done by Kayla, Nona, and Julia. See you next time!